We want to turn to another critically important story in relationship to the ongoing genocide and famine in Gaza. That is the brutal seizure, of course, of multiple aid ships coming from the Gaza Freedom Flotilla. And we are very honored to have with us one of the participants who was recently brutally seized by the Israeli forces on the most recent Gaza Freedom Flotilla, Chris Smalls, who is also the founder of the Amazon Labor Union. Chris, thank you so much for being with us here on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, please, the honor is all ours. And let me just ask you this to start. You were here on the Gaza Freedom Flotilla. You're a trade unionist in the United States. You speak out on all sorts of issues. But what motivated you to go on this Freedom Flotilla despite all the risks?
Well, you named it. I definitely wanted to connect all the dots. Amazon is definitely absolutely a participant in this genocide. They invested $7.2 billion with the Project Nimbus. And as a trade unionist that took them on, they're part of the working class struggle when it comes to Palestinian liberation. Trade unions have been a part of the resistance movement since the first Nakba. And from my journeys around the world, international solidarity is how we're going to defeat these type of entities, these powerful entities. When the military industrial and complex, we're talking about AWS, Amazon Web Services. Essentially, that is the Iron Dome. They are the intelligence that is used to surveil and target and kill innocent Palestinians. So for me, being a trade unionist, me being an American taxpaying citizen, I want to spread awareness, just like many people were inspired by the Mad Lean with Greta Thunberg. This was mission number 37. They've been doing this initiative since 2008. And this illegal siege that Israel has imposed has been going on way before October 7th for over decades, 2 decades now.
And Chris, you were obviously detained by the Israelis, and you were subjected to some really horrible treatment. Can you tell us a bit about that? I've seen you in other interviews discussing how it was brutal and quite racialized.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of the 21 volunteers, this was a racially motivated attack for sure. There's no way around it. Nobody can tell me different. I was single-handedly targeted because of not only the color of my skin, but just the fact that they felt that I don't see how, from my experience, how any person of color or Palestinians can live peacefully among Israeli regime like that. The amount of hatred and evilness that I felt from these people, I've never felt in my 37 years in America. I was thrown to the ground. They put their knee in my back. They twisted my arms behind my back. Three authorities on each side levitated me while one was pulling my hair back and using my chains as a noose to choke me to the point where I couldn't breathe. They threw me on the ground a few times, and then they picked me up and they brought me into a separate room. They isolated me from the rest of the crew the entire time throughout the port process. They threw me against the wall face first, and they said some racially derogatory things in Hebrew, but they also said in English that they are the furthest thing from my brother, not even close. That was their words. And the entire time they had five guards guarding me. Um, the entire time, I wasn't allowed to speak. I wasn't allowed to interact with anybody else. And during the prison captivity, same thing. It was more psychological. They lied to me every day. They told me I was going home when I wasn't. They made me get dressed, thinking I was going home. They weaponized the food against us because we were on a hunger strike. They kept us on 24-hour lockdown. They didn't allow us to see the outside world unless we spoke with our lawyers. And I wasn't even allowed to see my lawyer. My lawyer was never even allowed in onto the prison site. Um, and lastly, it wasn't no coincidence that I was one of the last to leave. Everybody else left in the first 24 hours to 36 hours. But with me and my brother Haxam, who was Arab, who's a person of color as well, they made sure they left us for last. And they didn't even give us water on the last day. 24 hours with no water, no food. Didn't even count us. That's how much they disregarded us. And they sent the raid squad on us twice to strip us naked and then try to humiliate us.
Mm. And you think about all the brutality that you all were subject to, and I think it's important to sort of highlight here that this was an aid mission. It's not like you guys were smuggling AK-47s. I mean, talk about what you were bringing with you on the ship, because I think it's critically important, that they subject people to this kind of brutality for what you all were doing.
Yeah, exactly. The IOF stopped a boat full of baby formula, baby diapers, women care products, of course, food and water, and a bunch of stuffed animals. No threat at all. This was in our legal right to do as a part of the ICJ ruling that ruled over a year ago in the case against Israel and South Africa, that humanitarian aid is allowed to be delivered by land to sea. So they have no jurisdiction, they have no legal grounds to illegally kidnap us and take us to Israel against our will.
I'm curious, Chris. I mean, what you did was quite brave, right? I'm sure you're aware of the history of the Israelis actually even killing people on these flotillas before. So you are taking a huge risk by doing this. What motivated you to put your life on the line in that way to try to get this tiny boat to Gaza, knowing what the Israelis are capable of, and not just what they're capable of, but their willingness to murder people?
Right. I mean, trust me, I had 24 hours to make this decision, and I had the conversation with my children before I left. I just wanted them to know that I love them, and everything that I'm fighting for is for a better future and a better world that we live in. This is some very dark times, and the same thing reminded me of when I took on Amazon during COVID, the pandemic. It was a life or death situation. People were dying around me. My coworkers, colleagues have died from COVID. The same thing here. I mean, of course, it's nowhere near the magnitude of what Palestinians are going through, but this is a life or death situation that I knew I signed myself up for. And I once again, I took on that task because I want to shed awareness and shed light on the situation and hold these unions accountable, and especially in America, the labor unions who are shipping arms every 15 hours for the last 21 months. And these politicians, all the progressives that were silent, even after I was been released, I've seen the messages online. I've seen who's been complicit. I've seen who's actually spoken up. And that's what the American people need to be our outrage for, is that where our money is going and who is to be held accountable. We need to do that right now.
Well, and I think that's a really important point there too, Chris, because I think a lot of people have been, looking at what's been happening, the genocide that's been going on for so long. I think sometimes people feel, does anything I do actually even matter? I mean, why is it important for people here in the United States to continue, with the BDS activities, with trying to block the boats at the port, mask off Maersk, all these campaigns, whatever they can do? Like, why is it important for people not to be demoralized and to keep pushing?
Because we all have a role to play. In this struggle for humanity. If you're a decent human being, I think you would be on the right side of this history. And you may not want to be on the flotilla. I don't encourage my comrades who are reaching out to me saying, I want to go on the next one. Because I can tell you right now, from my own experience, more than half of y'all wouldn't make it. This is not a joyride. You're putting your life on the line. As you said, Israel is not accountable to anybody, especially not the U.S. The U.S. Embassy didn't show up for any of us. We were 7 Americans on this boat. We were 1/3 of the crew. It didn't matter. So for comrades who want to do this type of mission, everybody has their own way of showing their activism, and I encourage them to do that. Continue doing what you're doing, whether it's taking to the streets, whether it's direct action, whether it is getting involved with the flotilla. If you want to get involved, get involved. But we all have to do something, and that's what needs to be put out there, is that the focus still has to remain on Gaza and on Palestine first and foremost, and we all have something that we can contribute to the movement.
Chris, I also want to ask you, what was your introduction to Palestine? Like, how did you get I don't want to use the word radicalized because it sounds like a negative thing, but actually, like, I think it should have a positive connotation when it comes to this. What radicalized you on this issue? What got you informed about the issue of Palestine? Is it something you've always understood, or is it something you learned about later?
No, before October 7th, I had the opportunity to be on a panel discussion with Dr. Mustafa Borgatti in
Hmm.
Montreal at Concordia University. So he already invited me to Palestine before the genocide started. I was already working with a Christian Palestinian organization, trying to go do some humanitarian work prior. For the last 2 years. I never had an opportunity to go because of the increased amount of danger. We kept putting it off before the flotilla came up as an opportunity. And actually, on the week of October 7th, I was in Berlin, Germany, one of the largest Palestinian communities outside of Palestine, with 30 to 40,000 of them that live there. And I seen for myself, my firsthand experience, how the Nazi police in Germany were treating the Palestinians in their own community, dragging children away from their parents right in front of me, tearing down Palestinian flags. I joined a number of rallies with my comrades out there, and I seen how we were kettled in every day. So when I came back to the States, I was one of the first labor leaders to speak up about it, and I lost tens of thousands of followers overnight. I lost so much opportunities financially. I wasn't booked by anybody for an entire year. And that's when I knew that I needed to go even harder. Because when you usually speak truth to power like I did with Amazon, that's when they try to come after you the most.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Well, amazing level of sacrifice, and we really appreciate you, and we've appreciated you since y'all first walked out of that Amazon facility there in Staten Island. Chris Smalls,
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us here on the Freedom Side.
Absolutely. Thank you for your work too. Appreciate it.